Delighted to say that Sinitta joins me now. Hi, Sinitta.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so well. And can I tell you that notwithstanding your amazing singing voice, you still look fabulous.
Thank you so much, Mark. You look fabulous too.
Well, listen, I've had a lot more work done than you have.
I'm
now,
wobbling on a waterbed at the moment.
do you own a waterbed?
Yeah, I'm on it now, see?
What's the thinking of a waterbed? My uncle had one years ago.
You know when you're lying in a pool on a lilo, that sort of that lovely floating sensation, it's like sleeping like that.
Do you not get seasick?
No, not at all. Because you have stabilizers in it. So it's not like literally, it's not sloppy, wobbly. It's kind of, what do you call it? It's you're supported, but you're floating.
See, how long have you had a waterbed? I'm fascinated by it. Before we get to the important questions about your career, how long have you had a waterbed?
I've always had one. I've always had a waterbed. I was raised with one because it's supposed to also replicate being in the womb, because you're obviously floating in the amniotic fluid in the womb. So it's very relaxing. Your body's fully supported, weightless and everything. But also, this is so funny. This is the first time I've been on television without eye makeup. I've just had laser eye surgery. So I'm supposed to be wearing these glasses to look at a screen, but I've taken them off just for you, Mark. But it's amazing because I can actually see everything. I was like half blind. It was just age-related sort of
this is amazing.
Degeneration.
So you've had the laser. Well, look, I'm delighted and privileged and honoured. I'm so glad that you've made time to join us after quite a significant procedure, and I'm glad you can see us in 2020 vision now. And I wish you a speedy recuperation from that procedure. Let's talk about you.
Okay.
Music is obviously, it's in the family, it's in the DNA.
It is. So my mother, so we have three generations. We have my mother, Michael Brown, who was like the 80s high-energy disco diva, with big disco anthems like So Many Men, So Little Time. But we also have my auntie Amy Stewart, who sang famously Knock on Wood with the big hairdresses and Come On Baby Light My Fire. So, it was inevitable. I had no choice. I had no choice but to follow in their footsteps, really, and try and make my mark.
Your mother will have told you it's a tough business. Did she ever try to dissuade you?
Oh, yeah. She said, be a dentist, a doctor, a lawyer, like anything where you could actually make some money and have some stability in life. But, once it's in your blood and in your genes like that, and growing up backstage in the dressing rooms, trying on the costumes and the makeup, it was like, who wants to be a lawyer when I can have all this fun and hopefully make some money as well?
And I understand that your mum was starring in the musical Hair when you were born, and that she was actually pretty young.
Yeah, she had me very young. She, now it's not such, there's not so much stigma around it, but she was slightly embarrassed about this when she was younger because sort of unwed and having someone young in those days was kind of frowned upon. But, it meant we had a great time because I was just everywhere with her, on tour, backstage, in the dressing rooms, at the concerts, and just, even at the parties, I'd be sort of asleep in the master bedroom and at some of the most amazing parties in the world, But I'm talking about, the Rolling Stones, Mark Bolan, David Bowie. So I had, I've basically seen and done it all before I was even allowed out or allowed into a nightclub legally. I'd already done it all. So in a way, it was a good thing because you've seen it all, you've done it all, so you don't need to get caught up in it so much.
Yeah. Tell me about Bowie and Mark Bolan and the Rolling Stones. Are they just a different species? Are these kind of superstars on a higher level, Sinitta?
Yeah. Now I realize that they were, but when I was younger, I didn't know, I didn't get it. So to me, they were just normal people. And it wasn't until we came to England and I went to boarding school here and everyone turned up to visit me on a school exit. They would sort of thought it was a good idea to rock up, for a weekend exit. And even the prefects, everyone was like freaking out that these people had come to visit me, that I suddenly realized, wow, this is a big deal. This is a big deal, because I had sort of three of the biggest, musicians in the music industry, rock, pop, and punk, turning up to the school gates at St. Mary's, and the prefects, who didn't even know I existed, suddenly wanted to be best friends. I was like 9 years old. So I kind of realized then that a lot was going on. But, when I was little, the Stones weren't really in the charts at the time. It was kind of, it had already happened. David Bowie kind of came back, around Changes One Bowie. That was the sort of comeback album. So I'd kind of missed, I thought David Essex was the biggest pop star in the world, for example. I thought he was a much bigger pop star than them.
So who visited you at school then?
So I had Mark Bolan, because Gloria Jones and Marsha Hunt, so Gloria Jones and Marsha Hunt were the partners of Jagger and Bolan, and my mother was dating Bowie, and the three Black American women were all good friends from being in shows and musicals together, probably Hair. So it was kind of a thing. Like I said, not that I was aware of it at that time. So I just used to, to me, when you're little, everyone's your uncle. It was uncle this, uncle that, but like I said, I was much more interested in, I think Leo Sayer and David Essex and people who were in the charts and on top of the pops at the time.
Yeah. David Bowie was just old hat at that point. A has been, if you like.
I mean, yeah. Well, I didn't even know. I mean, I played the music, and you hear the music and you love it. But everybody was a singer, everybody was a dancer, everybody was on stage. So, I was kind of too young to understand fame and that side of it. Like I said, until I got to school, and suddenly it was a big deal, and there were posters and people were showing me like, oh my gosh, do you really know? And people who'd never spoken to me before ever suddenly were like sort of, oh, hi, Sinitta. And I was like, wow, what's going on?
And after your wild bohemian childhood, how did you get on at boarding school?
I mean, I think I did quite well, considering, because my upbringing was so much more modern and liberal and forward thinking. We were vegetarians. We followed a microbiotic diet. They were gay people, black people, all nationalities, all mixing together. And suddenly I came to England after reading Enid Blyton books, because I was preparing for coming to England. And I thought, I should go to boarding school and have midnight feast and be around other children, because I was really precocious, in an all-adult environment. It wasn't really like being at Mallory Towers or St. Clair's. It wasn't as much fun as that. It was quite strict. I was very American, so I had to have elocution lessons, and, a lot about me sort of seemed like wasn't quite right and needed to be corrected. So that was difficult. But the girls were amazing. The girls were so friendly and so sweet. And I was the youngest boarder as well, and also the only black child. So I was a bit of a mascot and a novelty. And then, of course, I sort of came with this entourage of amazing people. So the girls really enjoyed having me there. I'm not sure the teachers were as impressed.
Did there come a point where you rebelled as a teenager? Because I don't know how you would rebel against such a liberal childhood.
Yeah, I turned into a bit of a Safi at one point. Safi from Ab Fab. Because again,
a little bit of a
once
nerd.
I sort of become. Yeah, and once you go to school and you sort of learn that all these things, my essays, what I did in my summer holiday compared to everyone else's, and the teachers would be saying, "Oh, she's a fantasist. Like, what on earth is she talking about? And how possibly could Fred and Charles be in love? And it's all nonsense." And I'd be thinking, well, no, that this is true. Fred and Charles are in love, because they didn't know, it was just a very different world. So things like that weren't discussed or as widely known. So then when I realized, oh, this isn't standard, I kind of, got a bit kind of preachy to my mother and be like, these people shouldn't be together and that shouldn't happen. This should be like this and this should be like that. And I kind of was rebelling against the liberalism, I suppose. And then I got out of school and realized, actually, you kind of want a bit of a balance. You want to fit in, but you still got to, you are who you are.
Clearly, you're hugely talented in your own right. Were you ever in your mother's shadow?
Always. I mean, it was amazing to become famous, because it was the first time in my life I was just known for being me because I'd spent my life being, oh, you're Michael's little girl. And, you kind of want to be, you want to be Sinitta. Also at school, no one could say my name. I was Sinitta, Sinatra. I was, everything under the sun. Nobody could get my name right. And I ended up saying, just call me George, like in the famous Five, just call me George. And suddenly, ta-da, I was Sinitta. And to hear people on the radio, the DJs, David, what you call it? Who was it?
What, the disc jockeys? I'm just trying to think of the big people at the time.
Bruno
Brooks,
and all of
Simon
them sort of
Bates.
saying, huh?
Simon Bates, Bruno Brooks.
Simon Bates.
Stephen Wright, Steve Wright.
Also, David, the one with the long hair.
David the Kid Jensen.
David
Hamilton. Fluff Freeman. So many.
All of them. Foxy. And to hear them sort of saying, in with the bullet at number 5, it's Sinitta. And you'd sort of think, oh my God, finally.
Yeah.
I had a teacher who I'm sure deliberately called me Sinatra, and I just thought, oh, well, it's prophetic. It means I'm going to be a famous singer,
Did you do the music industry, and did you handle fame in a different way to your mother? Did you learn lessons from her?
Yeah, because I suppose I didn't see, like fame was never actually a goal. It was just if I could actually make a living and pay my bills, by, in this profession, to me, that was being successful, to not have to take, because in America, like in LA, everyone's also a waiter or an usherette or, you have to have other jobs because unless you're a movie star, unless you're a star, you can't survive just being an entertainer. So that was the goal, to just be able to, go from job to job to job and think, wow, I haven't had to get a proper job yet. So fame was kind of, to me, more like, when you got into a cabbie would sort of say, oh, hello, you're that Sinitta, aren't you? And they'd chat to me, or people would wave to me on the street. But for me, it was all about, wow, let's see how long I can keep going at this. And here I am, almost 5 decades later. Oh my God. And I still haven't had to get a proper job.
The story continues. How did So Macho happen, your first monster hit?
Well, do you know what? So Macho was actually written by a guy called George Hargreaves, and it was supposed to be recorded by a lady called Pearlie Gates, who's a good friend of my mother's. But I used to earn money doing demos, which means when someone's written a song, you go into the studio and do like a sort of demonstration version of the record that can then be sent to the proper artist so they know how the song goes. And I'd done the demo, and I was like, oh my God, I can tell this song's a hit. I should be singing this. And I just had to convince Simon Cowell that I should be the singer of the song. And everyone kept shooing me away because I was always like, I can do it. And when you're that kid who's always around that no one takes seriously. And I finally managed to convince him to let me do it after I did a performance of it in this tiny little gay club somewhere in East London or South London. And I did a performance of So Macho, and this tiny little pub erupted. And then it was like, okay, well, let's give her a shot. And he's never regretted it. And he should have listened to me because I'm always right, Simon.
And of course, you mentioned Simon. I know you're really, really close pals now. You courted for a while. Tell me about this guy. I mean, he's an enigma, really. Tell me about the Simon Cowell that you know.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, we've known each other forever. So there's a lot. I know Simon when, the record company, when I was the only artist. I know him before he had any artists. I do have to say that I had several record companies wanting to sign me at the time, like established labels like, the RCAs and all of that. And I chose to sign with Simon because he was the one who would allow me to just be a pop star, because everyone else had me singing soul and gospel or, basically sort of black music, what they considered black music. And I was like, I want to do stuff like Madonna. And he was like, okay, well, if you sign with me, you can do what you like. And, that was Simon. He just got it, and he wasn't trying to mold me into anything else. And he was willing to sort of take risks. And we just had fun. we just had fun. You know, we were going to all the clubs. You know, it was Tramps, it was the Hippodrome on a Monday night, gay night. Oh gosh, just all the, you know, in those days, that's what you did. You went to clubs and you danced, and that was how you dated and what everyone did. You dressed up and you went out clubbing, and you weren't even really drinking a lot. It was about the music and the dance and seeing pop videos, you know, Whitney Houston videos, Michael Jackson. So we were kind of part of that set. And Simon was a bit older, so he, you know, he was a bit kind of cooler probably than, you know, guys that, you know, the dancers and stuff that I was hanging out with at the Pineapple. And, you know, it was just really fun times. It was about getting into the clubs and standing around posing and dancing. And that's what we did. And Simon was the biggest poser of all.
And when you that doesn't surprise me. When you began your collaboration and your friendship, he was very much a record industry insider, a great impresario. But he became this national figure. Did you see that coming? Did it surprise you?
I mean, not really. I mean, because Simon, at the beginning, he actually really wasn't. He had a great ear and great instincts. But like I said, it was a little independent record label with no artists. And it was literally Simon just foot on the ground, you know, and in the clubs and knowing which DJs to put the record into hands to and driving around the radio stations. So he was a real grafter, just with amazing instincts. So, but, you know, no one, I mean, even I didn't know that he would, you know, hit his 40s and then become one of the most famous people on the planet. You know, I think he won things like sexiest man in the world, the most eligible bachelor, I mean, you know, a nightmare, because he was already such an egotist and so crazy and so vain that it was like, oh my God. So you can imagine, for me and all of his friends, we were like, oh great, now we have got a monster on our hands. But I have to say, even with all the success and money and recognition and everyone either wanting to be him or to date him, he was still Simon. He was still the same, always sarcastic, always actually quite self-effacing, but with this mock kind of arrogance, and a really kind, you know, loyal friend. And all of his friends are the same people, were the same people that were his friends, you know, 40 years ago.
That's always a good sign. Sinitta, at the start of this conversation, we said that the story continues. What's next for you? What do you want to achieve next?
I want to... Well, at the moment, I want to meet someone amazing. I want to make my own TV shows, you know, because he's taught me a lot. So it's time for me to, you know, to step into my sort of thing. I want to be a bit of a lady boss. And what else do I want to do? I mean, you know, I've raised 2 beautiful children. It's all on track, really. I think I want to just continue. I can't see myself wanting to never do anything, because I've been working since I was 12. So I'm just really pleased. I've been doing Chicago, the musical recently, playing Mama Morton. Then Sheila Ferguson took over from me. Apparently Gemma Collins is taking over from her. And then I'm going back in for another 3 weeks. You know, it's just nice to still be doing stuff, because, you know, it can be all over once you get into your 50s, you know?
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.